The tragic story begins in a bustling Cairo cinema in the year 1967. A young man named Wajid, 29 years old, was heading to the movies with the woman he loved, Samia, for what seemed like a normal evening. The couple were planning to watch a film, and during their walk to the cinema, they discussed their engagement. Wajid explained that the delay in proposing was due to his family, who hadn't yet approved of the relationship. Once they reached the cinema, Wajid purchased the tickets, and they both entered the theater. Just as they were about to take their seats, Samia suddenly asked Wajid if he could get her some popcorn. In her excitement, she had forgotten to mention it before the movie began. Wajid agreed and asked her to wait for him. He hurried out, bought the popcorn, and rushed back, only to find Samia slumped in her seat. At first glance, it seemed like she had simply fallen asleep, but when he gently tried to wake her, her body went limp and collapsed onto the floor. Startled, Wajid believed she had fainted and immediately caught the attention of others in the room. Curious onlookers asked what had happened, but Wajid could only respond that he didn't know. A few people in the audience claimed they saw a man from the front row come and sit next to Samia after Wajid left, and then swiftly leave the cinema. Overwhelmed and frightened, Wajid called the cinema attendant and asked him to check if there was a doctor among the audience, explaining that his fiancée was unconscious and unresponsive. The cinema worker stopped the film and made a public announcement asking if there was any doctor present who could help. Amid growing concern and rising tension in the theater, the worker ran outside searching for medical help. Moments later, he returned with a woman who identified herself as a nurse. She had been waiting in line to buy a ticket and responded when the call for help was made. The nurse approached Samia, checked her condition, and then declared in front of everyone that the girl was dead. Panic swept through the audience. People rushed out of the cinema in fear and confusion. The nurse urged Wajid to call the police immediately, pointing out a strange substance oozing from Samia's mouth, suggesting she had been poisoned. The cinema manager, informed by his staff, was shocked. He immediately phoned the police, reporting a possible murder in Hall 4. He instructed his employees to guard all exits, ensuring no one entered or left until the authorities arrived. When the police arrived, they evacuated the hall but required everyone to present identification. Those who could not were detained for questioning. Meanwhile, officers moved toward the scene to examine the victim, only to discover that Samia was still alive. They immediately summoned an ambulance and had her rushed to the hospital. The mysterious nurse who had falsely declared Samia dead had vanished, and police suspected that she might have been involved in the attempted murder. Wajid, along with the individual seated near Samia, was taken to the station for further questioning. During his interrogation, Wajid shared everything he knew. He told the investigators that Samia was a teacher of Arabic at a central Cairo school and lived nearby. He had met her during a school meeting for his young son and had been captivated by her from the start. However, when pressed, Wajid admitted that he was previously married and that his current relationship with Samia had been kept a secret. He claimed to be divorced for 4 years and maintained close contact with his children, which is how he ended up at the school and met Samia. When asked why he had not yet married Samia despite being divorced, Wajid explained that he was concerned about how his children would react. Samia had understood this and told him she was willing to wait until the timing was right. He added that she never pressured him about marriage. The hesitation had always come from his side. When confronted with the claim from the cinema attendant that Wajid might have poisoned Samia, he firmly denied it, stating that he had only left to buy popcorn. Other witnesses supported his statement, noting that after Wajid left, Samia had stood up near her seat and whistled, an odd behavior that caught everyone's attention. It appeared she was signaling someone, and shortly after, a man from the front row approached her. He sat beside her briefly, then left as the movie started. Moments later, Wajid returned and Samia collapsed. This led the police to believe that the man who sat beside her could have been the one who poisoned her. Witnesses described him as tall, fair-skinned, wearing a blue suit with blue eyes. A sketch was drawn, but he wasn't among the registered attendees. It seemed he had managed to escape despite the doors being supposedly locked, just like the nurse. Investigators then questioned the cinema worker about the mysterious nurse. He explained that when he ran outside, he shouted for a doctor, and a woman in the ticket line stepped forward, identifying herself as a nurse. He had never seen her before and was confused by her claim that Samia had died, especially now that they knew she hadn't. Detectives began to suspect this was part of an elaborate plot. Perhaps the man had poisoned Samia, and the nurse had followed up to ensure her death and then caused a scene to escape unnoticed. Or perhaps it was all a strange coincidence. They returned to Wajid, asking who had suggested going to the cinema that evening. He said it was Samia's idea, and he had even canceled a planned visit to see his children just to accompany her. Police began investigating Samia's background, only to discover that no one named Samia worked at the school Wajid mentioned, nor was there any school at the address he provided. No woman matching her description lived in the area. This raised suspicions that Wajid had made it all up. But Wajid insisted he was telling the truth. He vividly recalled meeting her at the school and how she had helped him find the principal's office. He remembered seeing her with a teacher named Said Moheb, who was summoned for questioning. Moheb confirmed that he knew the woman, saying she was the mother of a student named Adele, but he didn't know her full name. Wajid was stunned. Samia had lied to him. Investigators questioned Adele, who identified Samia as his mother and asked if they knew where she was, saying his father had been searching for her for 2 days. At last, the truth began to emerge. Samia was actually Swad, a married woman who had disappeared from her home. Her husband, Yusri, had already filed a missing person report. He explained that they had been married for 9 years, and this was the first time she had vanished. When asked if anyone had reason to harm her, Yusri appeared genuinely surprised. He said Suad had no close friends and was a quiet, introverted person. He met her when she worked as a waitress. She had no family, an orphan raised in a children's shelter. When she turned 18, she left the shelter and started working to support herself. He fell in love with her, introduced her to his mother, and they got married. She had always been a devoted wife and mother, and rarely left the house except to work or visit the orphanage. Still, Yusri admitted she often seemed distant and never fully open with others. Investigators followed up at the orphanage. The director praised Swad, saying she was like a daughter to him. One worker, who had named her Swad, remembered her fondly. As they were leaving the orphanage, detectives spotted a tall, fair-skinned man in a stylish suit entering the building. His description matched that of the suspect. They stopped and questioned him. He identified himself as Samir, a former resident of the orphanage who now supported it financially. When asked about the cinema incident, Samir denied any involvement. He claimed he had been traveling and produced a train ticket as proof. The detective found it odd that he still had the ticket, but Samir explained that he liked to keep receipts. The case seemed to be stalling until a breakthrough came. Samia, Suad, regained consciousness in the hospital and told the full story. She said she had met Samir when she was 16 and he was 21. She was immediately drawn to him, and he promised to help her find work and a place to live when she turned 18. True to his word, he provided her a small apartment and began involving her in suspicious errands. She would receive a large bag and an address, deliver it, and return to find cash waiting at home. Though it felt shady, Samir reassured her it was harmless. Later, she discovered the bags contained money. But then she uncovered something far more sinister, documents revealing that Samir was trafficking orphaned children, smuggling them abroad to be sold. She decided to confront him and demanded a large sum of money to keep quiet. Samir agreed to meet her discreetly at the cinema. To avoid suspicion, she brought Wajid along. She had whistled during the film to alert Samir to her presence. He approached her, handed her a chocolate, and said he would comply. The chocolate was poisoned. She ate it. Then everything went black. Samir was ultimately arrested and sentenced to life in prison, while Samia tragically passed away in the hospital.